well, what was the question?
Can I go to the mall with you?
Sure, baby, let's go.
Before he ever rocketed into outer space or turned himself into a swaggering heartthrob named Stefan, Steve Urkel was just a one-episode neighbor on a blue-collar Chicago sitcom about the Winslow family. And yet, in the span of 9 seasons, Family Matters evolved from a grounded domestic comedy into a pop culture carnival of inventions, crossovers, and catchphrases that defined an entire TGIF generation. What makes it weird isn't just the science experiment set pieces or the cartoon logic. It's how the show constantly reinvented itself while audiences cheered the ride. Some characters vanished, others were recast, entire networks shifted, and still Friday nights stayed glued to the Winslows' living room. Today, we're counting down 15 delightfully strange facts about Family Matters. The spin-off roots, the accidental icon, the Disney synergy, the theme song magic, and yes, the moment a bespectacled kid literally left Earth. If you grew up with Carl's exasperated sighs, Laura's eye rolls, and Steve's squeaky optimism, this one's a nostalgia sugar rush. If you're new to the show, welcome to a time capsule where sitcoms felt like shared family holidays. Before we dive in, if you love retro TV deep dives and behind-the-scenes curveballs, tap like and subscribe. 15. It started as a Perfect Strangers spin-off. Family Matters didn't begin with Steve, or even the Winslows as a fully formed ensemble. It began with Harriet. Jo Marie Payton played elevator operator Harriet Winslow on Perfect Strangers, and her quick, grounded wit resonated so strongly that ABC greenlit a spin-off built around her perspective. The early plan leaned workplace forward, Harriet's job and adult life, while the family was meant to frame the comedy rather than dominate it. What happened instead is one of those great TV accidents. Audiences vibed with the Winslow home dynamic. Carl's steady presence, Rachel's wisecracks, Grandma Estelle's gentle heat, and Laura and Eddie's sibling chaos. By the time the first season got going, the show had migrated from a workplace premise to a kitchen table engine. That pivot matters because it set the stage for a very different kind of disruption. When a nerdy neighbor with high waters and a nasal laugh wandered in for a date gag, the series had already built a warm family world strong enough to absorb him, and ultimately let him reshape everything around it. 14. Urkel wasn't in the original plan. It's wild now. But Steve Urkel wasn't a day one character. He shows up late in season 1 as a one-off comedy setup, Laura's reluctant date. Then the studio audience cracked, the mailbags piled up, and suddenly the writers had discovered nitroglycerin. Jaleel White's physical comedy, those gangly entrances, the pratfalls, the squeaks, arrived fully formed. But what really caught fire was the character's sincerity. Steve adored the Winslows, worshipped Laura from a distance, and tried so hard to be helpful that he routinely broke physics and furniture. The producers did what smart producers do. They listened. Steve came back, then kept coming back, until he wasn't a guest, but the gravitational center. The show rebalance was dramatic. Plots bent towards Steve's misadventures, inventions, and social foibles. The miracle is that it didn't eclipse the family so much as remap them. Carl as the exasperated straight man, Laura as Steve's North Star, and Harriet as the unflappable heartbeat. A character meant to exit after one episode had, by sheer audience will, taken the wheel. 13. Did I do that? A catchphrase that stuck. Catchphrases can be engineered, but the great ones feel discovered. Did I do that? Wasn't a corporate memo so much as a moment that landed. Clean, repeatable, perfectly synced with Steve's brand of well-meaning chaos. Once it hit, the writers smartly threaded it through escalating set pieces. A toppled shelf, a collapsed couch, a chemically overzealous experiment. The line worked because it wasn't snark, it was vulnerable. Steve wasn't mocking the mess. He was amazed he caused it, and a little bummed he let people down. That twist gave the catchphrase legs. It became musical punctuation the audience could clap to, a bat signal for Carl's slow burn and Laura's glare. And as the show got bigger, robots, clones, transformation chambers, the catchphrase hovered like a comforting refrain. No matter how bonkers the premise of the week, one squeaky line yoked the spectacle back to character. In a decade obsessed with quotable sitcom moments, few crossed over into everyday life like this one did. 12. The Case of the Vanishing Winslow. Judy disappears. If you remember 3 Winslow kids early on, Eddie, Laura, and little Judy, you're not misremembering. Judy Winslow, played by Jamie Foxworth, quietly vanished after season 4 without an in-universe explanation. No, off to camp. No, moved in with Aunt so-and-so. Just gone. The 90s had a habit of these quiet write-offs, but Judy's is one of the most cited. Behind the scenes, it reflected shifting creative priorities. As Steve's star power rose and the show leaned into high-concept plots, the writers trimmed characters they struggled to service. On paper, that makes economic sense. In fan memory, it became a myth. A sitcom ghost story that surfaces anytime a character disappears mid-run. The Judy question also underscores how TV once treated continuity. Friday nights were about vibes and gags, not dense lore. Today, we expect send-offs and canon explanations. Back then, a credit sequence update might be the only obituary. Family Matters gave us many long arcs, but it also gave us one of TV's most famous vanishings. 11. Harriet was recast in the final season. Swapping the actress playing the family matriarch near the finish line is about as high wire as sitcom changes get. Jo Marie Payton had anchored Harriet since day one, a steady, witty counterweight to Carl's deadpan and Steve's chaos. Late in the final season, Judy Ann Elder stepped in as Harriet, and the show kept rolling. For viewers who grew up with Payton's rhythms, the shift was jarring. For the production, it was triage in a 9th season marathon. What's fascinating is how the series guarded tone over perfect continuity. Harriet remained Harriet, firm but loving, able to cut through nonsense with a raised eyebrow and a grounded line. In an era before social media debates could eat a show alive, Family Matters simply made the swap and trusted that the Winslow world, its patterns, moral compass, and Friday night muscle memory would smooth the edges. It's a reminder that long-running sitcoms are living organisms. They adapt, molt, and sometimes change faces to keep the heart beating. 10. The Great Network Hop, ABC CBS. You know a series is formidable when another network tries to buy the whole vibe. After 8 seasons as a TGIF pillar on ABC, Family Matters moved to CBS for Season 9 as part of a strategy to build its own family comedy block. On paper, that's a power play. In practice, time slots, brand habits, and viewer routines matter. The hop produced ratings whiplash and, after a long, resilient run, helped close the curtain on the Winslows story. But the move is historically juicy. A major network treating a character-driven sitcom like a franchise tentpole worthy of relocation. The TGIF identity was so strong that yanking out one of its cornerstones felt a bit like moving a beloved neighborhood diner to another city. Loyal fans followed. Casual Friday grazers didn't. The result doesn't diminish the achievement. It highlights it. Family Matters survived the kind of logistical earthquake that would have flattened most shows and still delivered a season packed with the same big heart and bigger inventions. 9. Urkel invented everything. At some point, the writers realized Steve's brain wasn't just a gag, it was a narrative factory. Enter the Urkel lab era. Transformation serums, jet-powered contraptions, the Urkelbot, synchronized polka tech, you name it. What could have been a one-note nerd trope became a tool set for reinvention. Want a romantic reset? Invent a machine that makes Steve smooth. Need a physical comedy showcase? Build a robot twin with pratfall precision. The show's tone slid, joyfully, from domestic comedy into live-action cartoon, yet kept a moral spine. Steve learns, apologizes, and tries again. That balance is the trick. The inventions weren't cynical shortcuts. They were sincere, loopy extensions of a kid who believes you can fix anything if you tinker enough. And because the gadgets sprang from character, the spectacle felt earned. The lab set might have stretched realism, but it never stretched the show's heart. A weird little optimist using science to win acceptance, and, someday, a dance with the girl next door. 8. Stefan Urquelle became a real rival lead. When Steve's cool juice turned him into Stefan Urquelle, it could have been a throwaway joke. Instead, the writers doubled down, turning Stefan into a full-on romantic rival, and occasionally a separate sustained persona. That gave Jaleel White a rare playground. Dual performances that asked different muscles from the same actor. Stefan allowed the show to interrogate the fantasy at the core of a million teen comedies. If the nerd could just be cooler, everything would click. Family Matters complicated that wish. Laura is charmed by Stefan's confidence, but she values Steve's loyalty, kindness, and grit. Over time, the triangle becomes less a mask and more a mirror. The series had the audacity to let both versions breathe, sometimes literally coexisting, thanks to science shenanigans. It's early evidence of mainstream TV playing with identity, continuity, and serialized romance without sacrificing Friday night comforts. Also, let's be honest, the Stefan entrance music alone deserved its own end credits. 7. Reginald VelJohnson's Die Hard DNA. Casting can do a decade of storytelling in a single face. Reginald VelJohnson had already etched himself into pop culture as Sergeant Al Powell in Die Hard, the empathetic cop with the steady voice on the other end of the radio. When he shows up as Carl Winslow, audiences bring that credibility and warmth right with them. It's a cheat code in the best way. Carl isn't a caricature. He's a working dad whose badge doesn't cancel his softness. That alchemy lets the show attempt bigger and sillier swings around him. Carl grounds the cartoon physics in human stakes. And when the show veers into very special episode territory, peer pressure, safety, responsibility, Carl's presence amplifies the message without sandpapering the fun. VelJohnson's timing is surgical. A side-eye for Steve, a slow inhale before a lecture, a hug just when it's needed. If Jaleel White supplied kinetic energy, VelJohnson supplied gravity. Together, they made Family Matters orbit. 6. Urkel crossed the TGIF multiverse. Long before cinematic universes, TGIF was weaving Friday night worlds together, and Steve Urkel was the unofficial courier. He popped into Full House to give Stephanie a self-esteem boost about her new glasses and crossed over to Step by Step, proving that wherever awkwardness existed, confidence coaching could follow. These cameos were stunt programming, sure, but they also codified something bigger. ABC treating its sitcom lineup like a connected neighborhood. It was clever marketing that felt like a gift, not homework. For Family Matters, it confirmed Steve as more than a character. He was a brand ambassador. The delight was in the tone match. You could airdrop Steve into another living room, and his earnestness played. It's easy to see the DNA of later shared universes here. Before post-credit scenes and crossover contracts, there was a kid in suspenders showing up to help another show's kid feel okay about being themselves. 5. The Disney World double episode. If you watched 90s TV, you remember the Great Disney Migration, beloved sitcoms filming specials inside the parks. Family Matters delivered a gleeful two-parter set at Walt Disney World, complete with attraction-forward set pieces and the kind of synchronized promotion only a network studio synergy machine could deliver. Depending on your taste, this is either peak corporate cheese or a charming time capsule of when TV felt like a field trip. For Family Matters, it worked because the characters carry the spectacle. Steve turning a theme park trip into a high-stakes romantic gambit? Of course. Carl trying to relax while chaos tracks his every step? Absolutely. The episodes play like postcards, bright, maximalist, a little shameless, and undeniably fun. They also show how flexible the series had become. The Winslows dynamics were portable. Drop them in Florida, give Steve a new gadget, cue the fireworks. The family bonds still ring, even under the glow of Cinderella Castle. 4. The theme song trinity. As Days Go By didn't just open the show, it opened a whole era of Friday nights. Composer Jesse Frederick, with Bennett Salve, gave ABC an instantly recognizable sonic signature across multiple shows: Family Matters, Full House, and Step by Step. You could be in the kitchen pouring soda and know, from 2 bars, exactly which corner of TGIF you were entering. Family Matters theme is a masterclass in mood setting. Warm horns, a hopeful rise, and a lyric that frames family life as an everyday adventure. That emotional primer matters, especially when a given episode might involve disaster-level slapstick. The song promises that however big the mess, the living room light is always on. Theme songs like this are an endangered species. Streaming intros often get skipped, and musical identity is outsourced. In the 90s, they were brand pillars. As Days Go By didn't just sell a show, it sold a feeling. We're home, the couch is calling, and anything that breaks can be fixed together. 3. The Urkel era, merch madness. Few sitcom characters ever jumped the fence into full-blown brand power like Steve Urkel. We're talking dolls, Halloween costumes, lunchboxes, and yes, Urkel cereal. It's easy to laugh at the sugary excess, but the merchandising frenzy is proof of how completely the character captured kids' imaginations. He was awkward, optimistic, and indestructibly himself. For a certain generation, owning Urkel gear wasn't just fandom. It was a way of wearing that message to school. Merch also fed back into the show's myth-making. When a character is plastered across toy aisles, every episode becomes an event. And writers can push set pieces bigger, knowing the audience is already invested. The phenomenon taught networks that breakout characters could become their own economies, not merely ratings bumps. It's the blueprint you see today whenever a supporting player explodes on social media and suddenly gets an arc, a spin-off pitch, and a Funko Pop in the same quarter. Steve did it first, with Suspenders. 2. Myra Monkhouse tilted the triangle. Enter Myra Monkhouse, played with laser beam devotion by Michelle Thomas. On paper, she's a simple lever. Give Steve a girlfriend to complicate his Laura fixation. In practice, she flips the emotional axis of the show. Myra loves Steve as Steve. Squeak, sweaters, and all. No magic serum required. That forces the series to ask real questions under the slapstick. Is love about being chosen by the person you idolize, or about being seen, fully, by someone who already adores you? Myra's intensity could be comedic, even overbearing, but the performance gave it warmth and vulnerability. The triangle also matured the characters. Steve confronts his own vanity. Laura reckons with what she values beyond image, and the audience gets more than a simple chase. Off-screen, Michelle Thomas's passing not long after the series ended adds a bittersweet glow to her episodes. Within the show's canon, Myra is the proof that Family Matters could braid genuine heart into even its wildest science plots. 1. Yes, he went to space. There's jumping the shark, and then there's strapping the shark to a rocket. In a late series 2-parter, Steve literally goes to space, because of course he does. By season 9, Family Matters had earned the right to be gloriously extra. The launch isn't just stunt television, it's a thesis statement. The kid who once couldn't cross a room without knocking something over has, through persistence and brains, aimed himself at the stars. Tonally, it's audacious. Narratively, it's consistent. Steve believes problems are solvable, whether they're romantic equations or orbital trajectories. And for a show that began as a modest spin-off, the image of Urkel floating above Earth is weirdly perfect. It's the final evolution of a sitcom that refused to be small, that embraced spectacle without abandoning tenderness. If you didn't watch for years and only heard Urkel went to space, you might roll your eyes. If you did watch, you probably smiled and, just maybe, got a little proud of the kid. Conclusion: Family Matters is proof that a sitcom can be both steady and shape-shifting. It started as a workplace-tinged family comedy, born from perfect strangers, and became a Friday night juggernaut powered by a once minor neighbor who grew into a cultural icon. Along the way, it broke a few rules, bent a few realities, and made some choices. Vanishing siblings, recast moms, network migrations, that would dominate Twitter discourse today. Yet, the reason it endures isn't the gadgets or the catchphrases. It's the Winslow home base. A dad with a patient sigh, a mom with a no-nonsense compass, kids who learn out loud, and a neighbor whose heart was always bigger than his footsteps. The weirdness wasn't decoration. It was the show's way of asking timeless questions about belonging, persistence, and being loved as you are. If you enjoyed this trip back to TGIF, hit like and subscribe. And tell us your favorite deep cut moment in the comments. The Urkelbot dance-off, the Disney detour, or the time a certain someone traded suspenders for smooth talk. As days go by, we'll keep the nostalgia rolling.